Sandra Mitchell floated through the docking tube that connected her small patrol ship to New Terra Station. Her legs felt weak after 6 months in space. The artificial gravity of the station pulled at her tired body as she stepped onto the main deck. She had been looking forward to this moment for weeks. The station buzzed with activity. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked past her. Some had blue skin and 4 arms. Others looked like giant insects with shiny shells. A few resembled walking trees with bark-like skin. Sandra had seen many alien species during her years as a commander in Earth Fleet, but New Terra Station always amazed her with its diversity. Sandra's stomach growled loudly. She had been eating nothing but protein bars and recycled water for the past month after her ship's food system broke down. The thought of real food made her mouth water. She remembered hearing about a place called the Matrix Café that served actual Earth food to humans who missed home. She asked a passing maintenance robot for directions. The small machine beeped and projected a holographic map in the air. The café was on level 7, not far from where she stood. Sandra smiled for the first time in weeks. As she walked through the station's corridors, Sandra caught her reflection in a window. She looked terrible. Her uniform was wrinkled and stained. Her brown hair was messy and needed washing. Dark circles surrounded her green eyes. She had lost weight during the patrol, and her uniform hung loose on her small frame. But she was too hungry to care about her appearance. The Matrix Café sat at the corner of 2 busy walkways. Through the large windows, Sandra could see humans and aliens sitting at tables eating and talking. The smell of real coffee drifted through the door as it opened for other customers. Her stomach growled again. Sandra walked up to the entrance. The door was made of real wood, something rare and expensive in space. A small sign read, "Welcome to the Matrix Café, a taste of home." She took a deep breath and stepped toward the door. A tall, thin alien blocked her path. He had pale blue skin and long arms that ended in 3-fingered hands. His head was shaped like an upside-down pear, with large black eyes that looked her up and down with disgust. A name tag on his chest read, "Klex Manager." "Excuse me," Klex said in a high, squeaky voice. "This establishment is for respectable customers only." Sandra blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry. I don't understand." Klex pointed one long finger at her uniform. "Look at yourself. You're dirty and smell like engine oil. Our customers expect a certain level of class. I suggest you try the food dispensers on the lower levels." Heat rose in Sandra's cheeks. She looked around and noticed other customers staring at her through the windows. Some were laughing and pointing. A group of well-dressed aliens at a corner table whispered to each other while looking in her direction. "I have money," Sandra said, quietly. "I just want something to eat." "Money isn't the issue," Klex replied, crossing his thin arms. "It's about maintaining standards. Our clientele includes diplomats, business owners, and other important individuals. We can't have people like you driving away our better customers." Sandra felt her face burn with shame. She had commanded a starship for 5 years. She had saved lives and protected colonies from pirates. She had served Earth Fleet with honor for over a decade. But none of that seemed to matter to this alien who saw only her messy appearance. "Please," she said, hating how small her voice sounded. "I've been in space for 6 months. I just need a real meal." Klex shook his head. "I'm sorry, but my decision is final. Perhaps you should consider visiting the human quarters on level 2. I'm sure they have something more suitable for someone in your condition." Other aliens walking past stopped to watch the scene. Some nodded in agreement with Klex. A few made disgusted faces when they looked at Sandra. She felt like an animal in a zoo, being stared at and judged by creatures who thought they were better than her. "I understand," Sandra whispered. She turned to leave, but Klex wasn't finished. "In the future," he called after her, "please make sure you're properly cleaned and dressed before approaching establishments like ours. We have a reputation to maintain." Several aliens chuckled at his words. Sandra's hands clenched into fists, but she kept walking. She had learned long ago that fighting would only make things worse. As a human in alien space, she had to be careful, not to cause trouble that could affect other humans. She found a quiet corner near a maintenance shaft and sat on a metal bench. Her hands shook as she pulled out her communication device to check her account balance. She had enough credits to eat at the cafe for a week, but that didn't matter now. Sandra stared at the floor and tried not to cry. She thought about the past 6 months. She had led her crew through dangerous asteroid fields to map new trade routes. They had rescued a damaged cargo ship with 43 people on board. She had negotiated a peace treaty between 2 warring alien colonies. But here in this busy station, none of that mattered. She was just another dirty human who didn't belong. Unknown to Sandra, someone had been watching the entire incident. High above the cafe, in a private office with one-way windows, a man sat at a desk covered with screens. He had seen everything that happened between Sandra and Klex. His dark eyes were filled with anger. The man's name was Keanu Chen, though very few people on the station knew who he really was. He owned the Matrix Café, along with several other businesses in the sector. He had built these places specifically to give humans a safe space in the vast galaxy, where they were often treated as second-class citizens. Keanu pulled up Sandra's military record on his computer. What he read made his anger grow even stronger. Commander Sandra Mitchell was a war hero. She had received medals for bravery. She had never lost a crew member under her command. She was exactly the kind of person his cafe was meant to serve and protect. He pressed a button on his desk. "Security, this is Chen. I want Manager Klex in my office in 5 minutes." As Sandra sat alone on her bench, tired and humiliated, she had no idea that her terrible day was about to change everything. Keanu Chen leaned back in his leather chair and watched the security footage again. The image showed Sandra Mitchell walking away from his cafe with her head down and shoulders slumped. Her defeat made his chest tight with anger. He had seen too many humans treated this way in alien space. The office door chimed. Klex entered without waiting for permission, his long blue face showing annoyance. The alien manager clearly did not like being summoned by someone he had never met. "You wanted to see me?" Klex asked in his squeaky voice. "I'm very busy running the cafe. We have important customers arriving soon." Keanu did not look up from his screens. His fingers moved across the keyboard as he pulled up more information about Sandra. "Tell me about the human woman you turned away 20 minutes ago." Klex waved one of his 3-fingered hands dismissively. "Oh, that creature. She was dirty and inappropriate for our establishment. I handled the situation perfectly. Our real customers were very pleased with my decision." "Our real customers," Keanu repeated slowly. He finally looked up at Klex. "And humans are not real customers?" "Well," Klex shifted uncomfortably. "Humans are fine when they're clean and well-dressed, but this one looked like she had been living in garbage. She would have ruined the atmosphere we work so hard to maintain." Keanu's jaw tightened. He had hired Klex 2 years ago because the alien had good references and claimed to respect all species equally. Clearly, that had been a lie. "Do you know who that woman was?" Keanu asked. Klex shrugged. "Some nobody human who probably works in the engine rooms. Maybe a cargo handler or maintenance worker. The kind of person who should use the food dispensers on the lower levels." Keanu turned his main screen toward Klex. Sandra's military record filled the display. The alien's large black eyes grew even wider as he read. "Commander Sandra Mitchell," Keanu said quietly. 12 years of service with Earthfleet. She has saved over 300 lives during her career. 6 months ago, she led a dangerous mission to establish new trade routes that bring millions of credits to stations like this one. The color drained from Klex's blue face. I didn't know. Last year, she rescued 43 people from a damaged cargo ship in an asteroid field. The year before that, she negotiated peace between the Centauri colonies and the Vegan trading guilds. A war between those groups would have destroyed commerce in 3 star systems. Klex's long arms trembled. How was I supposed to know all that? Keanu stood up from his chair. He was not a tall man, but his presence filled the room. His dark hair was streaked with gray, and scars on his hands told stories of old battles. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but deadly serious. "You were supposed to treat every human with respect because that's what I pay you to do. This cafe exists to serve humans who are far from home. It's a place where they can feel safe and welcome. I treat humans well, Klex protested. The clean ones who dress properly. No, Keanu said. You treat humans like servants who must earn your approval. That ends today. Klex finally seemed to realize he was in serious trouble. Sir, who are you exactly? I don't think we've met. Keanu walked to the window that looked down at the cafe. He could see humans and aliens eating together at the tables below. This was what he had wanted when he bought the place, a spot where his people could find good food and friendly faces in the cold emptiness of space. My name is Keanu Chen, he said without turning around. I own this cafe. I own the supply, contracts that keep it running. I own the shipping company that brings the coffee and spices from Earth. And I own the security firm that protects this station from pirates. Klex's mouth fell open. Even aliens who lived under rocks had heard of Keanu Chen. During the Andromedan War 10 years ago, he had been Earth Fleet's youngest captain. His ship, the Destiny, had held off an alien invasion fleet single-handedly while civilians evacuated 3 planets. After the war, Keanu had disappeared from public view. Most people thought he had retired to some quiet colony world. They had no idea he had spent the last decade building a business empire that stretched across dozens of star systems. Captain Chen, Klex whispered, I had no idea you owned this place. That's the point, Keanu replied. I don't advertise my involvement because I want my businesses to succeed on their own merit, not because of my reputation. He turned to face Klex again. The alien manager looked ready to faint. But when someone like Commander Mitchell gets treated like garbage in my cafe, I take it personally. She's a hero who has risked her life to protect people like you. And you threw her out like she was trash. Klex dropped to his knees. In his culture, this was the ultimate sign of apology and submission. Please forgive me, Captain Chen. I will find the human woman and apologize immediately. No, Keanu said firmly. You've done enough damage for one day. He pressed another button on his desk. The door opened and 2 human security guards entered. They were big men with serious faces and military bearing. Escort Mr. Klex to his quarters, Keanu told them. He's suspended from duty pending a full review of his management practices. But sir, Klex pleaded as the guards took his arms. I can fix this. I can make things right. The only thing you can do now is stay out of my way while I clean up your mess. After Klex was removed, Keanu sat back down at his desk. He pulled up Sandra's personal file and found her room number on the station. She was staying in the cheap quarters on level 3, the kind of place where tired ship crews rested between jobs. Keanu had a plan forming in his mind. Sandra Mitchell deserved better than an apology. She deserved recognition for who she really was and what she had accomplished. And the aliens on this station needed to learn a lesson about underestimating humans. He opened a secure communication channel and began sending messages to contacts throughout the sector. Within an hour, every human ship captain, trader, and business owner in 3-star systems would know what had happened to Sandra Mitchell at the Matrix Café. The alien elite of New Terra Station had no idea what was coming their way. They thought humans were just useful workers who should be grateful for any scraps of respect thrown their way. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Keanu Chen had not become one of the most powerful humans in the galaxy by accepting disrespect quietly. When someone hurt his people, he made sure they remembered the lesson for a very long time. Sandra Mitchell's bad day was about to become the beginning of something much bigger. Sandra Mitchell sat on her narrow bed in the cramped quarters she had rented for the night. The room was barely large enough for a bed, a small desk, and a tiny shower. The walls were gray metal, and the only window looked out at the station's industrial section where cargo ships loaded and unloaded their goods. She stared at the protein bar in her hand. It was the same kind she had been eating for weeks on her ship. The taste reminded her of cardboard mixed with vitamins. Her stomach was still empty, but the humiliation at the cafe had killed her appetite. Her communication device buzzed. Sandra looked at the screen and saw a message from an unknown sender. The message was short and formal. Commander Mitchell, you are invited to attend the Galactic Unity Gala tomorrow evening at 1900 hours. Your service to the galaxy has earned you this honor. Formal dress uniform required. Transportation will be provided. Sandra read the message 3 times. The Galactic Unity Gala was the most important social event on New Terra Station. Only the wealthy and powerful attended. Diplomats, business leaders, and high-ranking military officers from dozens of species gathered to celebrate cooperation between different worlds. She had never been invited to such an event before. Sandra wondered if there had been a mistake. Maybe the message was meant for another officer with a similar name, but the message included her service number and current location, so it had to be real. Sandra felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps her reputation was worth something after all. Maybe someone recognized her contributions to galactic peace and trade. She decided to accept the invitation. It would be good to be around people who respected her work. While Sandra prepared for bed, Keanu Chen worked late in his office. His fingers moved quickly across multiple keyboards as he sent coded messages to human contacts across the sector. The network he had built over the years was impressive. Human ship captains, traders, business owners, and military officers all owed him favors or shared his vision of a better future for their species. The first responses came within an hour. Captain Lisa Brooks of the cargo hauler Golden Star confirmed that she would spread the word to every human crew in the shipping lanes. Commander Paul Wright of the patrol ship Vigilant promised to inform his contacts in Earth Fleet about Sandra's treatment. By midnight, the story was traveling through space at light speed. Human crews heard about what happened at the Matrix Café and felt their own anger rise. They had all experienced similar treatment at some point. They had all been looked down on by aliens who thought humans were nothing more than useful animals. Jake Morrison, who ran a small trading company, sent a message to all his human employees. Effective immediately, no one from this company will do business with any establishment managed by the alien Klex or his associates. Captain Maria Santos, who controlled a convoy of mining ships, made a similar announcement. Within hours, dozens of human businesses were joining the boycott. The economic impact would be felt across multiple star systems, but Keanu wanted more than just an economic response. He wanted to change how aliens saw humans entirely. The Galactic Unity Gala would be the perfect stage for his plan. He opened a secure channel to his assistant, a sharp human woman named Helen Davis who managed his public relations. "Helen, I need you to arrange something special for tomorrow night's gala," Keanu said. "What do you have in mind?" Helen asked. "I want Commander Sandra Mitchell to receive the recognition she deserves. Contact the station commander and suggest that Sandra's recent mission should be highlighted during the ceremony. Make sure they understand how much money her trade route discoveries have brought to the station." "Consider it done," Helen replied. "Anything else?" "Yes, I want to attend the gala myself. It's time I made a public appearance." Helen paused. Keanu had avoided public events for years, preferring to work behind the scenes. "Are you sure? That will draw a lot of attention." "That's exactly what I want," Keanu said. "It's time these aliens learned who they're dealing with." While Keanu made his plans, Klex paced in his small apartment. The alien manager could not sleep. His career was ruined, and worse, he had insulted one of the most powerful humans in the galaxy without knowing it. Klex tried to contact other alien business owners to warn them about Keanu Chen's identity, but most refused to take his calls. Word was already spreading that he had been suspended from his job for incompetence. The few aliens who did listen to Klex's warnings dismissed them as desperate lies. They could not believe that a human owned such successful businesses in their sector. In their minds, humans were workers, not owners. They were followers, not leaders. This attitude was exactly what Keanu was counting on. The alien elite of New Terra Station had grown comfortable thinking they were superior to humans. They treated human customers, employees, and visitors as amusing pets who should be grateful for any kindness shown to them. Tomorrow night, their comfortable assumptions would be shattered. Station Commander Vortex, a large reptilian alien with golden scales, received Helen's message about Sandra Mitchell with interest. He pulled up her record and was impressed by what he found. The trade routes she had established were indeed bringing significant profits to the station. Vortex decided to feature Sandra's achievements during his speech at the gala. It would be good politics to honor a human hero, especially with so many human businesses operating in his sector. He had no idea that he was playing right into Keanu's hands. The next morning, Sandra woke to find another message on her communication device. This one was from the station's uniform service, offering to clean and press her dress uniform for the gala at no charge. Apparently, her invitation included full service treatment. Sandra smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Maybe her luck was finally changing. She spent the day exploring the better parts of New Terra Station, staying away from the level where the Matrix Café was located. The upper levels were beautiful, with gardens, art galleries, and shops that sold luxury goods from across the galaxy. As evening approached, Sandra returned to her quarters to prepare for the gala. Her dress uniform had been cleaned and pressed to perfect condition. Her medals gleamed in the light, each one representing a moment when she had served with honor and courage. Looking in the mirror, Sandra saw the officer she really was, not the tired woman who had been turned away from a cafe. Tonight she would stand among the elite of the galaxy as an equal. She had no idea that her presence at the gala was part of a larger plan that would change everything for humans in this part of space. All she knew was that she finally felt like she belonged somewhere. The transport shuttle arrived at Sandra's quarters exactly at 7 in the evening. Through the small window, she could see the main ballroom of New Terra Station glowing with lights. Ships from across the galaxy had docked for the event, and beings from dozens of worlds walked through the corridors in their finest clothes. Sandra stepped out of the shuttle wearing her dress uniform. The dark blue fabric was perfectly pressed, and her medals caught the light as she moved. Her brown hair was pulled back in a neat style, and for the first time in months, she felt confident. The ballroom was enormous, with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. Hundreds of guests moved around tables laden with food from many different worlds. The air hummed with conversation in dozens of languages. Sandra recognized many of the aliens she had seen laughing at her the day before. They wore expensive clothes and jewelry that sparkled under the lights. Some were diplomats she had worked with during peace negotiations. Others were business leaders who controlled trade routes across the sector. A tall, golden-scaled reptilian alien approached her. Sandra recognized him as Commander Vortex, the station's commanding officer. "Commander Mitchell," Vortex said in his deep, rumbling voice, "I am honored to meet you. Your recent work establishing new trade routes has been invaluable to our station." Several nearby aliens turned to look at Sandra. Their expressions changed from curious to shocked as they realized who she was. The dirty, tired woman from the cafe was actually a decorated military officer. "Thank you, Commander Vortex," Sandra replied. "I'm honored to be invited to your gala." "The honor is ours," Vortex said. "I plan to speak about your achievements during tonight's ceremony. Your dedication to galactic peace and prosperity deserves recognition." As word spread through the ballroom, more aliens approached Sandra. These were the same beings who had ignored her or looked down on her just 24 hours ago. Now they smiled and shook her hand, praising her service and asking about her experiences. Sandra felt uncomfortable with the sudden attention. She knew these aliens were only being nice because they had learned she was important. Yesterday, when they thought she was nobody, they had treated her like dirt. Across the room, Kleck stood near a wall trying to stay hidden. The blue-skinned alien wore his best formal clothes, but he looked miserable. Every few minutes he glanced nervously at Sandra, clearly afraid she might recognize him and cause a scene. The evening's program began with speeches from various dignitaries. Commander Vortex took the stage and spoke about cooperation between different species. Then he called Sandra forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vortex announced, "I want to honor someone whose recent achievements have brought great benefit to our sector. Commander Sandra Mitchell of Earth Fleet has established 3 new trade routes that will generate millions of credits in revenue for stations like ours." The crowd applauded politely. Sandra walked to the stage, feeling hundreds of eyes watching her. She gave a brief speech about the importance of peaceful trade and cooperation between worlds. As she returned to her table, Sandra noticed a familiar figure approaching. It was a human man in an elegant black suit. He had dark hair with gray streaks and kind eyes that seemed to see everything. Something about him seemed familiar, but she could not place where she had seen him before. "Commander Mitchell," the man said, extending his hand. "I'm Keanu Chen. I wanted to personally thank you for your service to humanity and to galactic peace." Sandra shook his hand, still trying to remember where she knew him from. "Thank you, Mr. Chen. Have we met before?" "Not directly," Keanu replied, "but I know your reputation. Your work protecting civilian ships from pirates has saved countless lives. Your diplomatic efforts have prevented wars. You represent the best of what humanity can achieve." Other guests began to notice their conversation. The name Keanu Chen meant nothing to most of the aliens present, but Sandra's military training kicked in. She had heard that name before in classified briefings. "Captain Chen?" she asked quietly. "From the Andromedan War?" Keanu nodded. "That was a long time ago. These days I prefer to work behind the scenes." Sandra's eyes widened. Every human in Earth Fleet knew the story of Captain Keanu Chen and his ship, the Destiny. He had held off an alien invasion fleet alone, saving 3 planets and millions of lives. "He was a legend. I can't believe it's really you," Sandra whispered. "Everyone thought you had disappeared after the war." "I've been busy," Keanu said with a slight smile. "Building businesses, creating opportunities for humans in alien space, making sure our people have places where they can feel safe and welcome." The key conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. A group of alien business leaders were arguing loudly with someone Sandra could not see. Their voices grew angry, and other guests turned to watch. "What's happening?" Sandra asked. Keanu's expression grew serious. "I believe that's my cue." He walked toward the commotion, with Sandra following close behind. The argument was between several wealthy aliens and a human woman in a business suit. Sandra recognized her as Helen Davis, someone she had seen in financial news reports. "This is ridiculous," one of the aliens was saying. "Humans cannot organize economic boycotts against us. They don't have that kind of power." "Actually, they do," Helen replied calmly. "As of this morning, 43 human-owned shipping companies have suspended service to businesses that discriminate against human customers. 17 mining operations have canceled their contracts with stations that allow such treatment." The alien's face turned an angry shade of purple. "Humans are workers, not decision-makers. They cannot hurt our businesses." "I'm afraid you're wrong," Keanu said as he joined the group. "Humans control more of the economy in this sector than you realize." The aliens turned to look at him. Most did not recognize the quiet human in the expensive suit. "And who are you?" "To speak for humanity?" the purple-faced alien demanded. Keanu smiled, but his eyes were cold. "My name is Keanu Chen. I own the Matrix Café where one of your friends insulted Commander Mitchell yesterday. I also own the shipping companies that supply your food, the security firms that protect your stations, and the mining operations that provide your raw materials." The silence that followed was complete. Every alien in the group stared at Keanu with shock and growing fear. They had heard of his businesses, but none of them had known they were owned by a human. "That's impossible," one of them whispered. "Is it?" Keanu asked. "You've been so busy looking down on humans that you never bothered to look up and see who was really in control." Sandra watched the exchange with growing amazement. In the space of a few minutes, everything she thought she knew about power in the galaxy had changed. Humans were not just workers and soldiers, they were owners, leaders, and decision-makers, and they were about to remind everyone else of that fact. The ballroom fell silent as Keanu's words sank in. The alien business leaders stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to fear. Other guests moved closer, sensing that something important was happening. Commander Vortex pushed through the crowd, his golden scales reflecting the lights. "Mr. Chen, did you say you own the Matrix Café?" "I did," Keanu replied calmly. "Along with 47 other businesses in this sector. I also control the shipping lanes that bring food and supplies to this station." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sandra watched the aliens around her exchange worried glances. They were beginning to understand that the quiet human they had ignored was actually one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. "There must be some mistake," said the purple-faced alien who had been arguing with Helen. "The Matrix Café is managed by Klex. He told us he makes all the decisions there." Keanu's smile disappeared. "Klex was my employee. As of yesterday, he is no longer welcome in any of my establishments." "Why?" Commander Vortex asked, though Sandra suspected he already knew the answer. "Because he refused service to Commander Mitchell based on her appearance," Keanu said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "He threw her out like she was garbage even though she has done more for galactic peace than most beings in this room." Sandra felt her cheeks burn as hundreds of eyes turned to look at her. She had not expected her humiliation to become public. "Like this. That's a serious accusation," Vortex said carefully. "Do you have proof?" Keanu pulled out a small device and projected a holographic image in the air. The security footage from the cafe appeared above their heads, showing Klex blocking Sandra's entrance and insulting her appearance. Every word of their conversation was clearly audible. Gasps and whispers filled the ballroom as the aliens watched, Sandra being turned away. Many of them had been in the cafe that day, laughing at her humiliation. Now they looked embarrassed and uncomfortable. "As you can see," Keanu continued, "my employee treated a war hero like she was beneath him. This is exactly the kind of behavior I built my businesses to prevent." Klex himself appeared at the edge of the crowd, pushing through to see what was happening. When he saw the security footage playing above everyone's heads, his blue face turned, pale with terror. "Klex!" called out one of the alien business leaders. "Come here and explain yourself." The alien manager stumbled forward, his long legs shaking. When he saw Keanu standing in the center of the group, he looked ready to faint. I can explain," Klex stammered. "I didn't know she was important. She looked like a common worker." "Every human is important," Keanu said coldly. "That's a lesson you never learned." Sandra stepped forward, finding her voice. "He told me I wasn't good enough for his cafe. He said I should eat with the other humans on the lower levels, where we belonged." More whispers spread through the crowd. Several aliens who had been in the cafe that day looked down at their feet, clearly remembering how they had laughed at Sandra's treatment. "This is unacceptable," Commander Vortex declared. "Mr. Klex, your behavior has brought shame to this station. You are banned from all public establishments effective immediately." "But sir," Klex pleaded, "I was just maintaining standards. Humans understand their place in society. They don't expect to be treated like real citizens." The wrong words at the wrong time. Sandra saw Keanu's jaw tighten with anger. "Real citizens?" Keanu repeated. "Commander Mitchell has saved more lives than you could count. She has negotiated peace treaties that prevent wars. She protects the trade routes that make your comfortable life possible." He gestured to Sandra. "This woman risks her life every day to keep beings like you safe, and you think she's not good enough to eat in a cafe?" Klex realized his mistake too late. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," Keanu interrupted. "You meant exactly what you said. You think humans are servants who should be grateful for whatever scraps you throw them." Keanu turned to address the entire crowd. "That attitude ends today. I am announcing that all my businesses will now be managed exclusively by humans. Any establishment that discriminates against human customers will lose their supply contracts with my companies." The implications hit the alien business leaders like a physical blow. Many of their restaurants, shops, and services depended on supplies from Keanu's shipping companies. Without those contracts, they would go bankrupt within months. "You can't do this," protested the purple-faced alien. "It's economic warfare. It's called free market capitalism," Helen Davis said with a cold smile. "Humans learned it from you." Commander Vortex stepped between the arguing groups. "Perhaps we can reach some kind of agreement. Mr. Chen, surely you don't want to punish all aliens for the actions of one individual?" "I'm not punishing anyone," Keanu replied. "I'm simply choosing to do business with people who treat my species with respect. That's my right as a business owner." Sandra watched the aliens around her realize how completely they had misunderstood their situation. For years they had thought humans were dependent on alien goodwill. They had never imagined that humans controlled so much of the economy they relied on. "What do you want from us?" Vortex asked. "I want change," Keanu said. "Real change. I want humans to be treated as equals, not as amusing pets or useful servants. I want establishments like the Matrix Café to welcome human customers with the same respect they show to anyone else." He pointed at Klex. "And I want beings like him to understand that their attitudes have consequences." Several alien diplomats stepped forward, eager to make peace. "We can arrange sensitivity training," one offered. "We can create new policies to ensure fair treatment." "Policies are just words," Sandra said, surprising herself by speaking up. "What we need is for you to see us as we really are, not as lesser beings who should be grateful for basic respect." Keanu nodded approvingly. "Commander Mitchell is right. This isn't about laws or policies. It's about changing how you think about humans." The crowd began to break up into smaller groups, with aliens huddling together to discuss the implications of what they had learned. Many approached Sandra and Keanu to apologize for their previous attitudes, but Sandra could see that some aliens remained angry and resentful. They did not like being told they were wrong, and they especially did not like being challenged by humans they considered inferior. The battle for respect was far from over. Tonight had been just the opening move in a larger war for human dignity in alien space. But as Sandra looked around the ballroom, she felt something she had not experienced in years. She felt proud to be human. 6 months after the Galactic Unity Gala, Admiral Sandra Mitchell stepped through the familiar docking tube that connected her ship to New Terra Station. Her new uniform bore the stars of her recent promotion, and her crew followed behind her, with respect and pride. The station looked the same, but everything had changed. Human faces were visible everywhere now, managing shops, running security checkpoints, and operating transport services. The corridors buzzed with activity as beings from across the galaxy conducted business in an atmosphere of mutual respect. Sandra made her way to level 7, where the Matrix Café waited. The wooden door still bore the same sign, but new words had been added below: "Where humanity feels at home." She pushed open the door and stepped inside. The café was busier than ever, with every table occupied by humans and aliens eating together and talking freely. The smell of real coffee and earth spices filled the air, bringing back memories of home. "Admiral Mitchell," called a cheerful voice. Sandra turned to see Rachel Kim, the café's new human manager, approaching with a bright smile. "Welcome back to the Matrix." "Thank you, Rachel," Sandra replied. "It's good to be here." "Your usual table is ready," Rachel said, leading Sandra to a corner booth with windows overlooking the busy corridor. "Mr. Chen is waiting for you." Keanu Chen sat at the table, looking relaxed in a simple black shirt. His business empire had grown even larger in the past 6 months, but he still made time for personal meetings with people who mattered to him. "Congratulations on the promotion, Admiral," Keanu said as Sandra sat down. "Earth Fleet made the right choice." "Thank you," Sandra said. "I hear your businesses are doing well too." Keanu smiled. "Better than ever. It turns out that treating people with respect is good for profit, as well as being the right thing to do." Rachel brought them coffee without being asked. Real Earth coffee, rich and strong. Sandra savored the taste as she looked around the cafe. On the walls hung portraits of human heroes from across the galaxy. Her own picture was there alongside images of explorers, diplomats, scientists, and soldiers who had made the galaxy a better place. "How are things on the other stations?" Sandra asked. "The word has spread," Keanu replied. "Station commanders throughout the sector have implemented new policies to ensure fair treatment of all species. The economic pressure worked exactly as we hoped." Sandra nodded. The boycott organized by human businesses had hit several stations hard. Within weeks, alien-owned establishments were competing to attract human customers with better service and respect. The old attitudes of superiority were becoming expensive luxuries that few could afford. "What happened to Klex?" Sandra asked. "He's working as a cargo handler on a mining station in the Outer Rim," Keanu said. "The job pays enough to survive, but not much more. He sends me apology messages every few weeks, begging for another chance. Are you going to give him one? Keanu considered the question carefully. Maybe someday, if he can prove he's truly changed his thinking about humans. But actions matter more than words, and so far, all I've seen from him are words. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Vortex. The golden-scaled reptilian had become a regular customer at the café, often meeting with human business leaders to discuss trade agreements and security arrangements. Admiral Mitchell, Mr. Chen, Vortex said with a respectful nod. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Not at all, Sandra replied. Please join us. Vortex sat down heavily, his large frame filling the chair. I wanted to thank you both again for what happened 6 months ago. The changes you initiated have made New Terra Station a better place for everyone. How so? Keanu asked. Crime is down 30%, Vortex explained. Productivity is up across all sectors. When people feel respected and valued, they work harder and cause fewer problems. It seems obvious now, but many of us never made the connection before. Sandra was pleased, but not surprised. During her years in space, she had seen how discrimination and prejudice created tension and conflict wherever they existed. Treating people fairly was not just morally right, it was practical. There's something else, Vortex continued. The Galactic Council has asked me to propose new standards for interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. They want to use what we've accomplished here as a model for other systems. Keanu raised an eyebrow. The Galactic Council is interested in human rights? They're interested in stability and prosperity, Vortex corrected. But it amounts to the same thing. When humans are treated fairly, everyone benefits. After Vortex left, Sandra and Keanu talked about the future. The changes they had started were spreading beyond New Terra Station to other parts of the galaxy. Human-owned businesses were flourishing, and human voices were being heard in councils and negotiations that had once excluded them. Do you think it will last? Sandra asked. As long as we stay vigilant, Keanu replied. Prejudice dies hard, and there will always be beings who think they're superior to others. But we've proven that humans don't have to accept mistreatment. Quietly, Sandra looked out the window at the busy corridor. A group of young humans walked past, laughing and talking with alien friends their own age. They carried themselves with confidence, secure in the knowledge that they belonged here as much as anyone else. My great-grandmother used to tell stories about Earth in the old days, Sandra said. How humans fought for centuries to treat each other as equals. She said the struggle never really ends. Each generation has to choose whether to accept the world they inherit or work to make it better. Wise woman, Keanu said. She would have liked what we've done here, Sandra continued. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. As evening approached, Sandra prepared to leave. She had meetings with other station commanders who wanted to implement similar changes in their systems. The work of building a more equal galaxy was far from finished. Same time next month? Keanu asked as she stood to go. Wouldn't miss it, Sandra replied. She walked through the cafe one more time, nodding to the humans and aliens who looked up from their meals to acknowledge her. At the door, she paused to read a new sign that had been installed since her last visit. In this place, all beings are judged by their character, not their species. All are welcome who come in peace. Sandra smiled and stepped out into the corridor. The galaxy was still vast and often hostile, but it felt a little more like home than it had 6 months ago, and that was a start.